Hello, everyone, and welcome to the final class of Summer Camp 2022, Smokin' and Grillin' with Aaron Ryan. So, Aaron, if you're ready, it is all yours. Take it away.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. Appreciate y'all joining me this afternoon. Um, before pre-COVID, before the dark times, we'd all get together and we'd have food days. I think seemed like about once a month, if you know. And so some of the people in my department kind of thought I was halfway decent at cooking some things every now and then. I do pretty much the majority of the cooking in my household, and so Um, I was asked to do a summer camp video, so a summer camp session, and I decided to do it on smoking and grilling, and just maybe you learn something, maybe you may not, but might have a good time at least in the process. So with that being said, I'll get started. We got somebody in chat here. Let's see. Oh, Susie, thank you. Appreciate that. Um, so, anyways, we'll talk about some things at first. Feel free to chime in, and then there will be some videos later on. And probably at that point, maybe you might want to just kind of mute yourself just to be on the safe side on when we do the videos. I do apologize. I've never done like something like this before, so we do get to some of the videos. They're not going to be Academy Award nominated content, so just give you a little heads up. But I try to do the best I can, and I think I'll probably do this again next year. So I think I'll learn some things. So hopefully the video quality next year will be a little bit better. But so I apologize in advance. So with that said, let's get going. And that's this little share thing. Like always wants to get in my way. So types of grills, that's kind of the big thing. So everybody probably has, I mean, probably most of you that have joined this session, you probably have some sort of a grill, maybe more than one, or maybe you're looking at purchasing one. I think I do have somebody that was coming into the session today out of our department. She's real curious about pellet grills, for example. So anyhow, so kind of upper left hand corner, we just basically have a charcoal. It's kind of a Weber kettle grill, very very common, very popular as far as a charcoal type of grill. Fairly easy to regulate to your temperature because it's got a damper on the lid as well as down below. To the right of that is a pellet grill, and the videos you'll see today is me using a pellet grill. That's something I got into a couple years ago. I love my pellet grill. Started with basically the one you get at Walmart, the Pit Boss Austin XL, and I really can't wait till my wife says I can go ahead and get myself a Traeger. So that's going to be the next one. Gas grill, that's going to be certainly incredibly popular, very easy to regulate temps. But as we'll talk about, maybe not necessarily the easiest way to infuse flavor into your food. Um, to the right of it is just basically an electric smoker. So it's used to just smoke meats, and you typically would add wood chips or maybe some wood chunk. Probably more like chips for this kind of smoker though, with a water pan that allows you to keep moisture retained inside the smoker to keep your meats from drying out. And then for the purists down below, we have two different kinds of wood burning grills and smokers. So we have an offset smoker, bottom left hand corner. That's where if you want to call yourself a true blue pit master, that's where it's going to be right there. So those are your guys that'll stay up all night long and tending to the fire and everything. I've gotten to a point in my life where I'm going to go to bed, so that's why I'm with the pellet grill. And then to the right of that, now this is something I do want to get though. This is called a Santa Maria style grill. This is real popular like in South America and so forth. And so it's you build a fire, and then you can the heat is controlled via raising and lowering the actual grill gate. You can raise it to get more indirect, and we're going to talk about that in a second. Indirect kind of cook, or you can certainly drop it down and get it really hot and get more of a direct type of cook. So that leads me to talk about types of cooking. So for a lot of us growing up, and especially when you probably first start out, we tend to do a lot of direct cooking, which is we have a fire, whether it's charcoal or gas, which is going to be the most common, or maybe wood, and we're going to cook directly over those coals. And that tends to, because we typically want to go fast, so we want this thing to cook, and we're ready to eat, and we want to go fast. The problem with that is that um, it doesn't tend to lend itself as much flavor, as well as it's a good likelihood of perhaps burning the food. Whereas you could slide over, and this is probably on a Weber kettle. Um, of course, it doesn't have the handles, but anyways, you would be able to offset the meat to where it's not sitting over the coals, or vegetables to where it's not sitting over the coals, and therefore it's going to cook at a lower temperature. It's going to cook slower, but you're going to absorb a lot more flavor in whatever it is you're trying to cook. So that's kind of your two methods right there. Is going to be your direct cook as well as your indirect. And I've learned to uh, uh, I'm going to get much more flavor with an indirect style cook. Is there any questions or anything at this point? Does anybody want anything they wanted to bring up? I know it's post lunch, and I know that's like always the slow moment of the day. I just hate myself. So no, okay. So meat grades. Let's talk about meat for a second. So, um, you know, beef especially is graded and it's based upon the marbling. And prime beef, for example, is a high amount of marbling, so that's going to be a lot of fat that's going to be kind of woven throughout the muscle. Choice is going to be less than prime, and select has very little marbling. There's a little typo, but Japanese Wagyu right there is A5 is pretty much nothing but marbling. I've actually had the chance once to eat a Japanese Wagyu A5 ribeye, and it was probably at this, because of my age and so forth, and how I've grown up eating, probably a little bit rich for me. It's not something I probably would seek out a whole lot, or at least certainly not a big ribeye, but maybe small cuts. um and then some tips: pay attention to the cuts. You can get good cuts such as a choice for the price of select, or select for the price or select or prime for the price of choice. So just kind of keep an eye. I've developed a good rapport with some of the meat cutters at Rouse's and Gulf Shores on the island, to where they kind of help me select when I actually pick out a steak to cook. They know where some of the better cuts are, that would typically be graded higher, that are not. So I'm able to, and I'll show you in my ribeye video later on, that I was able to achieve that. Pork is typically graded by color and marbling, as well as the back fat thickness and carcass muscling. So typically pork, darker color, again, kind of gives that more of that rich look, is typically a better cut of pork, better quality. Rubs. So beef rubs typically are going to be really salt and pepper forward. Those beef rubs, whether you're doing a brisket or you're doing beef ribs or you're doing steaks, are going to be heavy on salt, heavy on pepper, because beef can take it. And then of course you can typically add onion and garlic powders as well to those rubs, and then you may add some other things. I've seen coffee or so forth. Pork and poultry rubs will be sweeter, and they're going to typically contain either white sugar or brown sugar. So it's going to, a little less pepper, a little less salt, just a little more sweetness added to the meat. So typically, a lot of pork and poultry rubs are pretty interchangeable for the most part. I did an amazing turkey for Thanksgiving using it was like a honey pecan rub, and it was just absolutely fantastic. Places where you can get some good rubs, and it's about style, and you can certainly make your own. But if you're wanting to look at some good places where they got like pretty good selection of rubs and so forth, Academy Sports, if you're down south, Ace Hardware actually carries some good rubs, as well as those of you down south as well. Bucky's gas station. Bucky's has a tremendous selection of barbecue rubs, as well as sauces and so forth. So when I go in there, that's when I like to load up again and so forth and get some different stuff.
Hey, Aaron, we did have a question in chat. Christina wanted to know
Yes.
about muscling. I guess, what is muscling?
So we were talking about let me go back to that slide. So they were talking about with the back fat thickness and the carcass muscling, and it's just talking about the color and the grade, and it's more of a visible thing. So it's looking for um how should I say, it's got good. It's kind of hard to describe. in a roundabout way, it just looks really good. It's got a real for pork. It's got a real nice, deep, rich red color. A lot of times you'll see in grocery stores. Typically, you're going to see your pork is going to be really light color. You don't typically get really a high grade of pork typically in most grocery stores. That's nothing wrong with the pork you can get in the grocery stores. It's just not going to be that really. Um, it's not going to have that real rich color. It's not going to have that. You kind of almost see the almost the fibers inside the muscle and so forth. And so it's kind of, you'll see that. If I had to, probably I could have gotten my hands on a really good piece of pork and a store bought piece of pork, and you definitely would kind of see the difference and so forth. So I apologize for not having a better description for you on that. So some tools that I find to be essential, depending on especially what you're how you're cooking and so forth, what you got. Um, if you're cooking with gas, like I said, gas is going to give you your least amount of flavor, but there's ways to compensate for that. One of the coolest things that they've come out with now is 15 bucks, and it's a smoke tube. And what you do is actually it gives you a if you've already got a gas grill, and but you're looking for that adding that enhanced flavor without having to go out and buy another grill or like a pellet grill, for example, you can get one of these smoke tubes, and this is off to the top right, a smoke tube, and you can fill it with pellets, and you can place it over your gas burner, and it'll eventually will ignite, and it'll actually kind of, you want to move it off a little bit from the direct heat because it'll start to burn up on its own, and it's going to release a lot of smoke and flavor from the wood chips from the pellets, and that'll add flavor into your cook using gas without actually having to go out and buy something additional. So really a neat product. Insulated barbecue gloves. Man, I got these, and well, just what a lifesaver. It's just so, I mean, whether I've got a brisket or pork butt or ribs, a ham, all sorts of bigger, larger products, poultry, big cuts that you can't get on a spatula or tongs or something, where you get those insulated barbecue gloves and you can transport your final product, your cooked product, without burning yourself, without getting it all over you and so forth. And then a good thermometer, a good instant read thermometer is invaluable. And you don't have to spend a lot on these either. I mean, there's the ones you can spend a lot where you're going to get that temp right then and there. But then you got the ones that'll kind of just slowly build up. Maybe you'll get a good accurate read in about 4 to 5 seconds or so forth. And um, that is kind of some things that I find to be very helpful. Is having a good thermometer. Knowing when something is done. I do it, especially with steak. I use it tremendously a lot with steak, so I can get my steak perfect. Because especially, we all know with inflation, and we've seen it with food, and we've seen it certainly with beef, with prices. If I'm going to go ahead and treat myself to a ribeye that night, I certainly don't want to ruin it by overcooking it. So that being said, is there any other questions or comments up to this point before we jump into our first video?
I don't see any questions in chat.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to put my first video, and I hope it surprises you all, because I'm hoping it's something um, that none of you guys were thinking this would be the first cook, but this is going to be our first video. All right. Good evening, campers. What we want. I've got everything I need right here except some guys. I've got some grapefruit, got some limes. Of course, I got my Denver Bronco mocktail glass right there. So, anyways, let's get started. It's a simple recipe. And I've got the pellet grill warming up. And we're going to take it up. This is expecting.
Dip them in that sugar. A little bit of mess there. Drink. Gives it a here. You know, we're infusing this fruit with flavor. All right. So my fruit is ready, and I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna check the 450, and if we're good to go, we'll go ahead and put this fruit on the grill, and I'll see you out by the pit. A little slightly above 450, we'll release a little heat, and kind of noticed something this evening. I've got one of my grates is out, and I don't foil down all along my barrel of my pellet grill. That's because I'm going to do. I'm going to cook dinner, and that'll be our next recipe. I'm just going to put this down on the grill. Close the lid, and we're going to let this ride for about 15 minutes. So I'll see you when it's ready. All right, welcome back, campers. So, been about 15 minutes. Fruit, pulled it off the grill. If you've never grilled citrus fruit, it's worth doing just for the smell. I mean, the flavors just burst off that fruit. So we're going to take. We got our little juice strainer here. We got some ice over here. I was actually smart this time around, and I went ahead and opened up the club soda bottle so that there would be no accident while we were. Granddaughter, got 2 grandkids. See her granddaughter, so I'm doing this by myself tonight.
Hey, Aaron, we're getting the message that the screen sharing has paused. Oh, it really did pause. It looks like he might have dropped out. Hold on just a minute. Looks like his connection cut out. We'll give him just a few seconds to get back on. While we're waiting, was the video playing for everyone okay, or was it cutting out for you too?
It was cutting out for me. So I don't.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
we
wasn't
tested
getting
this. Yeah, we tested this beforehand, and it worked perfectly, of course. But now, okay.
The audio came through though.
Yeah, the audio was coming through for me too, but the video was just playing choppy, and then got disconnected.
Which I couldn't even hear the audio. The audio was all chopped up for me too. So
Okay.
Still, Hey, Jeff.
Yeah.
It says we seem to be. I lost some connection or a connection issue. Are we losing people?
Yeah. And everyone said that the video was not playing. It was playing really choppy for me at points, and then the audio was like doubling itself.
Okay. Let me see if I can maybe I can just play the video and narrate on my own without having to share the sound. Maybe we'll see if that helps us.
Okay.
Does does that seem to be a little bit better for everybody?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Oh, yep. Now it's cutting out for me too.
All right. How about can you all at least hear me when I talk right now?
Yes, you're coming through fine.
Okay. All right. So I apologize, everybody. I mean, Jeff and I, we tried to figure out the best way to show these videos. But apparently, I don't have CenturyLink. I actually have MediaCom and I have 5Gs. I actually have probably some of the highest speeds you can get down here. So I'm not sure why we're struggling with this. So I do apologize. So I'll just kind of talk on the rest of this video clip about what we did. So grilled up the grapefruit, grilled up the lime, excuse me, and juice them both. I'm going ahead and I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of honey to this to sweeten it up. You could add maple syrup. You could add a guave, something sweet, and I kind of stir that up. Uh, and then what I'll do actually is I'll end up adding ice to this club soda and give it a little stir. Let me see if I can. Oh, get more towards. I don't want to do that. Come back to that. So there's the finished product right there. So just it's just something different. I wanted to lead off with something that hopefully people weren't really expecting, and so it was a really good drink, and so forth. So nice and citrusy. Like I said, in the video, grilling that fruit. I mean, it is. If you just want to make your kitchen smell good, just go grill some oranges, limes, and grapefruits, and just let it sit out there. So I do apologize about the video when we did try to run through this stuff, and maybe the next video it's going to be a quicker video. Hopefully, maybe we can try again. I'll try to leave the share audio off and just navigate that route and see if we can do something a little bit better. So once again, I do apologize. Okay, so my next cook is actually pizza, and so anybody familiar with, say, Papa Murphy's, for example, it's a take and bake pizza chain, and you can go in and order all sorts of different pizzas. And what I've discovered, like I said, I have a pellet grill, but you can certainly do this on any kind of a grill, whether it's gas or charcoal. And I came up with the idea of I went to Bed Bath and Beyond one day, and I bought basically it was a $30 pizza stone, and I put that in my grill and I crank it up about 450 degrees. And what I'm able to do really is I'm able to turn my grill into a wood-fired pizza grill, a wood-fired pizza oven, I should say. So I'm actually able to cook outside, and I'm infusing a lot of flavor not only into into this particular pizza, it's pepperoni. We're putting it in the meat and the cheese, but also the crust absorbs a lot of smoke, and so you really transform the crust of this pizza. And this is easy. I mean, and those of you who know about Papa Murphy's, or you go to use it or whatever, for example, on Tuesdays it's a $10 pizza. It turns out this video was my most difficult one. I had to do this stupid pizza video 3 times. It's probably the easiest cook. The first time around, I didn't have any audio, and then I don't know what happened the second time, but so the third time, I'm just like, whatever happens up to the third time, because my wife is sick of going to Foley to pick these things up for me. But let me see if we can't get something going a little bit. Well, what I'll try to do is actually, and now, yeah, maybe we'll forgo the video. So what on this? So when you get a Papa Murphy pizza, it we tried YouTube and it was worse. So, but I can put them back on YouTube, and then what I'll do is if you want to hit me up for the actual link, and I will get that out. Or do we have like a Jeff? Do we have like a who all attends thing or something like that? We'll be able to.
Yes, I do.
Okay, all right. So
I
what
can
I'll do is
even.
go
Sorry,
ahead.
if you can get me the videos, I can edit them into this presentation, and no one will know a thing.
Okay, that sounds good to me. So let's see. Let's get somewhere where we can. Okay. So right here, so like I said, it's $30. It's a Bed Bath and Beyond. It's just a pizza stone. And when I go and light the grill, I'll put that thing on there so that as the grill comes to temperature, this thing's coming to temperature as well. Those Papa Murphy pizzas, they come with a little tray where you cook the pizza in to begin with. So I let that go for about 8 minutes or so, and then I'll go out there. I let the pizza sit on the tray on the pizza stone, and then after about 8 minutes into the cook, I'll go out there with my pizza spatula, and I'll go ahead and work that pizza off that little tray, and I'll discard it, and then the pizza will finish cooking directly on the stone. You can't really get that thing off until you've cooked that crust a little ways. Those of you that like buying pizza, your pizza crust or your pizza dough there, to say like in Publix or something like that, you could definitely do a direct cook. Just make sure you've got a good bit of flour or cornmeal or something like that on the stone, so that it's not going to stick to it when you lay the pizza down, so forth. So this is the pizza later on in the cook, as I've already removed it from the stone. You can see that the crust is kind of solidified up a little bit and so forth, and that's why I was able to remove it and go from there. Let's see. That's just cutting the pizza or whatever. I did kind of overdo this a little bit. I should have probably backed off a couple of minutes. Right in the middle, it kind of got a little on the you can see a little charred side. Like I said, this was the third attempt we were going to roll with this one, so it's kind of my main error probably in terms of my cooks. The first piece I actually did, I in retrospect, had I known we'd have a video issue today, I wish I would have kept that video, because that pizza actually turned out just spectacularly and so forth. But the flavor was still great. It just got a little bit of char right here at the point, and then kind of right there in the middle of the pizza. But the rest of the pizza was very, very good, and then the topping was fantastic. I mean, because like you've got the smoke added into that into the pepperoni and the cheese and so forth, and so it was really good. So let's move on. Any questions or anything about the first two cooks? All right. Go to cook number 3. Okay, so let me see if I can. So these are ribs. So this I kind of really like to play this for y'all too. Let's just see what we can do. Jeff, if you just let me know if there's a problem, but I'm going to give it a shot again.
Okay.
Let's see what we can do. But I'll not share the audio. I'll see if we can narrate through it. Let me see if that'll help any or not. So let's see if I mute that video. So this is just can y'all hear me still?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Is the video like okay so far?
It's really choppy. It's like a slideshow. I'm not sure why it's doing that now.
Yeah, we were so good earlier. Okay. Well, all right. We'll try to do the same thing again, find a key point. So this is just a pork spare rib, but unlike a lot of ribs that you're going to get around here. This is actually a Texas style recipe that I'm doing here. So if you were in Texas and you wanted pork ribs in Texas, they're not going to taste like ribs you typically get in most places in Alabama. So I talked about earlier, the rubs are going to be typically for pork and chicken. You're typically going to get more of a sweet style rub, and so forth. And in this particular cook here, what I'm doing is actually once I get these kind of cleaned up, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that here a little bit. Let me see if I can get to the membrane, because that's everybody likes to know, how do you get rid of the membrane? And right about here is probably the best way to show you. So what I've got is I've got these ribs. These are pork spare ribs. They're flipped over, and you've got that membrane on the back of the ribs. Now, there's lots of things you can do with the membrane. You're not committing any barbecue crime by leaving it on there. Okay, if most people don't even realize it's still going to be there. So you can leave it on there. You can score it diagonally, kind of crisscross. That'll allow it to kind of burn up a little bit and separate. Or in this particular case, I take a butter knife and I work it underneath the membrane just a little bit to where I can get a crease. And then what I'll do, see if I can, I'll grab a paper towel. So I'm just kind of working it. And then what I do is I take a paper towel and I just pull it. You kind of see where I'm kind of just pulling that membrane directly off the ribs, and I discard it. So I did take the membrane off. It's not something I always like, oh my gosh, I got to take the membrane off. But in this particular cook, I did take the membrane off. Let's see. And then what I did afterwards, I just kind of cleaned it up with my knife. Just try to, there's like some of these little pieces, especially with large cuts like ribs or with a brisket or with pork butt, if they've got like kind of dangly little pieces, it's good to go ahead and get rid of that, because all that tends to do typically, and especially in a long slow cook, is they're just going to burn up, and it's not going to add anything but just burnt meat to this. So in this particular case, I went ahead and cleaned up. There's that little flap of pork, and what you can do is you can save that stuff, and you can save it, and you can freeze it, and then you can use it as a later date. You can grind it and you can make sausage, or you could, I mean, whatever, you could do something with it. You don't have to throw it away. Is what is the point. So anyways, I got them getting these things all cleaned up. So you see I'm still kind of squaring off the side a little bit here. And then I'm going to go ahead and season. So what I'm doing here on the seasoning is, like I said, I'm doing a Texas style rub or Texas style ribs. And so the first thing actually I'm doing is I'm applying a nice even coating of black pepper. So coarse black pepper I'm adding to these right from the beginning. So I'm going to add a beef rub, but I want an extra pepper on these ribs. So the first thing I'm doing here with the rubs is I'm adding coarse black pepper, and I'm going to apply evenly on both sides of the ribs. And then I'm just coming back with it's a beef rub here, and it's called Hey Grill Hey, and it's her beef rub. She does a YouTube channel. I like a lot of her stuff. She does a lot of pellet grill cooking, and so it's a product that I picked up of hers up at Buc-ee's, and I'm just going back over with her beef rub. And so I'm just gonna do a nice even coating of the seasonings, as you can see, and then ultimately here I'm going to just flip it over, and I'm just doing the same thing on the top of these ribs. Okay, so let's get to the pit. All right, so what I'm running on this here is I've got the grill set at 250, and I've got 2 racks that I ended up doing this day, and this is a walk away cook for the most part. I do got to come back. I don't run a water pan in my pellet grill or anything like that. So those with an electric smoker, or if you're doing an offset or something like that, where you can run a water pan, you would definitely you would have to come back and do what's called a spritz. So what I do is I have a little water bottle, a little spray bottle, and I add water to it, and then I also add a little apple cider vinegar, and then about once an hour I'll come back out here and I'll spritz these things. So on this cook here today, I run it at 250. I'm running hickory pellets, and I'm going to cook these ribs for exactly 4 hours. And I will not temp these ribs. So unlike maybe some other things I will cook, I am not going to temp them. I know at 4 hours if I could run 250 plus or minus 10 degrees off and on throughout the day, I know I can run 400, I can run for 250 degrees for 4 hours, and I'm going to be exactly where I want these ribs to be at the end of 4 hours. So like I said, if you can maintain whatever way you're cooking, you can do this with gas. If you can get that temperature set, if you're doing charcoal, and you can run that 250 degrees, and then just have your ribs on there as an indirect, as we talked about, not direct. We don't want it directly over that heat source, but we run an indirect cook at 250 degrees for 4 hours. Your ribs are going to be done. So what they're going to be, as you'll see in the other clips, they're going to be near done. So we got a little final step here at the end that we're going to do that really finishes these ribs off nice. So these guys sat there for, like I said, for 4 hours at 250 degrees, and that's me just kind of spritzing right there. Okay. So okay. So these were them after 4 hours. And in the video, I'll tell you how I know they're done. If you look closely at the ribs, you kind of see that they kind of start to form a little crease in between each of the connective tissues with each rib. And then they also had a nice bend quality. So as you picked up the rib in the middle, they would start to definitely arc, but not tear away. And that is the key. No, I don't ever use 100% apple cider. I like to mix it up with a little bit of water. I don't use 100% on the vinegar. And then what is the ratio? So I fill up that little water bottle, and I just add a couple tablespoons to it. That's all I add to it. So I don't want a whole lot of that on there. I get real. My wife, she says I'm too cautious with it. I get scared. I'm not gonna lie. I'll get too nervous about too much of that. So in this particular cook, like I said, we're doing a Texas style. So I've got this foil out here, and if you'll notice, I got some Rouse's bold and spicy Texas barbecue sauce. And what I'm going to do is I'm just kind of in these clips. I'm just kind of showing you the ribs a little bit. Let me go back to where I had them flipped over. So you got that backside, looks really nice and meaty and so forth right there. So I was really pleased at how these actually turned out really, really well. So what I do in this video, in this cook, is I'm going to take this barbecue sauce and I'm going to drizzle it across this foil. And what I'm doing is I'm not trying to overly sauce this. I'm just trying to put a little bit of moisture and some of the flavor of the barbecue sauce in on this foil. And then what I did here is as you can see, it's not a whole lot. Just it's some, but I didn't pour the whole bottle out on this thing. And then what I do is I take those ribs and I lay it face down in the foil. And then what I end up doing is I wrap this up really nice and tight, and I stick the ribs back in a cooler, and I stick them in a cooler, not with ice or anything like that, and I keep them face down. That's important. So I keep them face down because that's where that barbecue sauce is. So it's the base of the ribs is now facing that barbecue sauce. So I put them in a dry cooler, and I let these things sit minimum for an hour. I can't stress that, minimum 1 hour. And so I think these ended up going about 2 hours because I wasn't really sure what time we were going to eat dinner. We had my sister-in-law and her husband coming for dinner, and so it was kind of a matter of whenever they got there. So I think these ended up sitting for about 2 hours, and like I said, just wrap them up real nice and tight, and then face down. in the cooler, and then my wife she came home and filmed, and then I've been filming everything with my cell phone turned over horizontally, and she filmed this last part vertically, so that's why we've got the different styles. So like I said, we learned some things about creating videos, and once again I do apologize about today. But anyways, let's get to where we open these things back up. And I mean, like that's a good looking rack of ribs right there. I promise you, these were good. This was a good cook, and easy. You know, I mean, obviously I do a few extra things. You know, I took the membrane, I cleaned them up a little bit. But as far as the seasoning, it's just something you're not going to get. Now, for those of you that Texas style, that's not my thing. The same principle would apply if we wanted to just do like a more of a Southern style, Alabama style rib, where we would go with we would not add the coarse black pepper. Okay, we're going to add butt rub, or some sweet style pork rub. We're going to season the ribs up, and we're going to do the same cook. We do 250. We're going to go 4 hours, because some of you might have heard was it 3-2-1 method. So it's the 3-2-1 method for ribs is typically around 225 degrees. You'd go 3 hours unwrapped, then you go 2 hours wrapped, typically with sauce, butter, honey, maybe, and then you go 1 hour again. We're cutting out all that back and forth stuff. We've got them seasoned. We're going to the pit, and we're letting it ride for 4 hours. Like I said, I came back to spritz. Those of you running a water pan, as long as your temps running consistent, I mean, you can walk away. So, and then you would just do the same thing at the end. You would get your favorite flavor of Southern style barbecue sauce and your foil, lay it down, put your ribs face down, cover, wrap, and let it sit for at least an hour. So the same thing could apply. Let's see if I can get to where cutting these open and trying to. It's hard to tell in this video, but it had a fantastic smoke ring all the way around the rib. I actually squeezed the rib, and juices are just oozing out of it. They're just, like I said, just cooked perfect, nice and tender, juicy, fantastic smoke ring, great bark on these, and like I said, just an easy cook. It doesn't, a lot of this it seems to be more intimidating than what they really are. Would you or anyone else recommend a store-bought barbecue sauce that's not sweet, something that's got more of a savory base? Well, in this particular case, I would say something along the lines of a Texas style. Texas style barbecue sauces are not sweet styles. They're going to be way pepper flavored, and concentrate on those notes. I'm not as familiar with Carolina barbecue, which I think ventures off more into a mustard-based sauce. Probably not my thing. I did have the chance back in February to experience some St. Louis barbecue, which actually had some brisket burnt ends at this one place with the meat. The meat was fantastic, but I could not find a sauce that I liked. Their sauces was not my style. So I tend to like two different kinds of sauces, more of a Texas base and or more of an Alabama based sweet sauce. But if you've got Rouse's or Christina, if you get Rouse's or Publix, I'm not sure where you live, but you would be able to certainly probably find a sauce. I think in Stubbs, I think he has maybe more of a Texas-based flavor. If you're maybe in Publix, you might try it. But yeah, you're in Foley, so yeah. So I would think I think Stubbs does carry because he's got lots of different flavors. My wife loves sweet baby. Was it Sweet Baby Ray's? I mean, I think I got 3 bottles in there for her. So it sometimes gets a little too sweet for me. But anyhow, yeah, if we come down the island, just get the Rouse's, bold and spicy Texas barbecue sauce. Their proprietary products are really good, actually, for a grocery store chain. So a lot of their stuff's really good because they actually have a chef that designs a lot of their products for them. Okay, so we are at 2:15. So okay, we would have been probably in trouble if I had actually been able to play the videos. Might have ran over. Okay, so my last cook was a ribeye steak, and so I tried to save what I consider to be my best for last. And this particular steak was a choice dry aged ribeye. And like I said, making friends with your meat cutter. Okay. I wanted to get a I was gonna get a prime that night, but I was like, don't really feel like spending the money. But this one here, it was a dry aged steak, and he actually pulled it out from underneath, and this steak looked better than the prime ribeyes that were located in the next tray over, and I got it for like $10 less a pound. So what I did here with this one is I like to brush, and I talked way too much in this video, by the way, so it's probably good that you're not having to endure it. To see I'm still just yakking away. So I like talking about this steak because I was like really excited about it. But you can see, like, look at all the marbling in this thing. I mean, this is just this was just a fantastic steak. It really was. So what I like to do in this particular case was, I have the grill lit, and what I did was I actually cooked this low and slow, and I do what is called a reverse sear. So a reverse sear is where we're going to cook at a low temperature for a lengthy period of time, and then we're going to actually sear it off at the end. So what I did was I coated this with olive oil just a little bit. I was concerned about the dry age being a little dry, that my seasoning might not adhere very well. So that's why I added a little olive oil. And then I used a little bit of Meat Church's Holy Cow barbecue rub, which is his beef seasoning. And I coated my ribeye with it. So let's see, still just yakking away. So my wife says I love to talk. I love to hear myself talk. That's what she says. And I'm just seasoning it up. Nice and even coats. Okay, now this was cool. So I took a stick of butter, and I actually pulled it out on my lunch break. I'm working at home, just probably like the majority of y'all. I pulled it out and I let it sit all afternoon. And then what I did was, before I started making this video, I mixed in some chopped garlic and some rosemary and thyme, and I stirred it all up, and I wrapped it back up and tried to shape it back into like a stick of butter in the cellophane, and I put it back in the fridge to harden up. So I just made like a compound butter for this ribeye for later. Okay, so here I am, and you recall I actually did the Paloma video earlier, so it's sitting over where the grapefruit and the limes were, and so I've got it on the grill, and I'm actually cooking this steak at 225 degrees, and this ribeye, if I recall, I wanted to think it was going to go about 40 minutes. I think we went just a little bit longer. It's actually pretty thick. It was pretty thick cut, not a real long steak, but it was actually a very thick cut. So I ran, I want to say maybe about 45 to 50 minutes, if I recall, on this cook. And I got to about 125 before I pulled it. And so what am I doing here by cooking this steak this way? Well, I'm adding flavor. I'm adding that smoke. That smoke is giving this steak a unique flavor. And that's where we sometimes make mistakes when we cook over direct, like with a good cut of beef, is that we cook it, and we cook it real hot and we cook it real fast, but really all we ended up doing was just really just searing it off, and just maybe even kind of burning a little bit, and so this way we're just going to go real low and slow, and like I said, I think I got to 125 before I pulled this thing off. And then once I pulled it off, is Kelly Holt not here? I can't believe she didn't show up. She was fussing at me about wanting me to do a vegetable, so I kind of interjected my twice baked stuffed potato into the video for her, so she would have a vegetable. But I guess she didn't show up today, and so I'm just temping it. I think I came out to check it and see. You see it kind of starting to darken up a little bit now. We're kind of coming up on temperature a little bit. And then what I did was I opened up my flame box to where I exposed the flame. and I cooked it. I ramped up the temperature on the grill to about 450 degrees at this point. So now I want to go ahead, like I said, I want to do my reverse sear, and I want to get these grates nice and hot. Okay, so I'm getting them really nice and hot, and then once I do that, I'm going to put the steak back down on the grill. Now, what I do here is I angle this steak so it's sitting at a 45-degree angle over those grates, and I let this thing sit for about 20 minutes. Not 20 minutes, 20 seconds. Good Lord, we'd end up with something horrific for about 20 seconds. So it's 20 seconds, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that steak and I'm going to flip it around to the other 45-degree angle. And what I'm doing is those nice, neat diamond grill marks in your steak that you pay $40 for in a restaurant. That's what I'm producing here. So I'm just letting that flame just kiss this steak off, 20 seconds, and then I flip it and I do the same thing on the other side. As you can see, you kind of see those little diamond marks on there. So there's my steak as it has come off the grill. Yeah, I got a little grizzle here on the fat cap, but I don't eat that piece anyways. I'm more focused in on this, on the everything away from the little tip on the bottom left. I don't eat that. But your where the money is on this steak is over on the far right of the steak, and that's probably that half-inch cap that runs around that ribeye, and that's your rib cap. And if you were actually doing a competition style steak, that's what you serve your judges. You don't serve them the stuff right in the middle of the steak. You serve them off that fat cap or that rib cap over on the far right part of the steak. So now what I'm going to do is a lot of people just go ahead and eat. No, we don't want to eat yet. This thing needs to rest. We're going to let this thing rest for 10 minutes. We're going to tin it. What we're going to do is we're going to put some of that compound butter that I showed you earlier, and we're going to put that compound butter over this steak. And then once we have our compound butter, then I'm going to just tin it with foil. I'm not wrapping it up tight. I want some of the heat to escape. But what I'm doing is I want that muscle to bring those juices back in here. Okay, I want it to reabsorb those juices, and so that way I end up with a nice juicy steak here. Okay, and that's what it looks like after the butter has melted all over the steak, and of course it leaves me a little bit of garlic and the rosemary and thyme where the actual pieces were and so forth. Now, I am at a point, and I commented this in the video. Should have done it on campus. I got a big grill. I need some help loading that thing up in my truck and getting it up there. I'm at a point in my life where I probably should not be eating whole ribeyes anymore. So a lot of times my wife and I, she does, if I can't talk her into the steak, we'll split. And how I split this thing, I'll show you, is I'll actually cut this down, and I want you to see how pretty those little pieces turned out. I just slice it down the length of the steak, and you can see how pretty this thing came out. I mean, it came out perfect for me for medium rare. For y'all, this is what I tell people about cooking. Cook what you like. It's not my place to tell you what to cook. I'm just doing this just for ideas and suggestions. You cook what you enjoy. I would never come to your house and tell you what to cook and how you should cook something, and vice versa. So you want to prepare your food the way you do. If you wanted this steak a little more done, I think, like I said, I went to 125. Go to 135, right? Go 135 and then sear it off. Then we should probably be medium well. We may have some difference of opinion on when I say how you should cook. So that's all good. So anyway, so what I do is, so I slice this up, and now here's the funny thing, and this is a secret. Of course, Chrissy Dixon's in here today, and she has a very good rapport with my wife, so she may rat me out, but hopefully she doesn't. My wife is not a big beef eater. Where did I tell you all the flavor was? In the rib cap. Guess who gets the side of the steak with all the rib cap pieces? This guy right here. So don't tell her. Anyway, like I said, she doesn't eat beef. Why did I give her the best part of it? So what I did, and then what I did was when it's all said and done, is when I cut it up like this, is actually, let me see if I can find the part of it. When it's cut like this, I'll actually re-season. I'll just go back with whatever rub I used, or you can just use a little salt and pepper and just kind of season it up this way. So if you go back, if you were serving this steak to where everybody wanted their own ribeye, I would not have cut this. Like I would have left it as is. I would have left it whole with the grill marks, nice presentation and so forth. If I'm just kind of, like I said, feeding my wife and I'm gonna cut this up. If I'm feeding, another couple that maybe not big eaters, they're not wanting a whole ribeye themselves, I would maybe do a couple ribeyes or something, maybe 3 or 2 or 3, depending on how big they were. Slice it all up, and I would serve it. I would serve it this kind of style and so forth. And that's it for my ribeye. And I did enjoy this meal. I'm not gonna lie, it was good. And I went back to focusing on that potato for Kelly Holt, but she's a no-show today. So if you see her, tell her I did do the vegetable part like she asked. So we got just a couple minutes left. And do we have, oh yeah, it is her birthday. So maybe she's celebrating. Any questions or suggestions, tips of your own that you'd like to share? I mean, feel free to unmute yourself. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I mean, feel free to jump in. Stop sharing though. Well, I think I don't see anything coming up. Oh, Susie.
No.
And once again, I'm sorry about the video, y'all. Like I said, I'll get with Jeff and try to get those over to him, and so that way we can get this out to you guys.
Yeah, we can put something together. No problem at all. You did a great job narrating through, though. So I mean, at least we saw everything too.
Well, yeah, we got through it. It seems to be what we've had to do for the last few years, and maybe next year, like I said, maybe next year that. Well, maybe we can do it next year and we'll maybe Jeff and I do it on property. Maybe I'll load up the grill and we'll try to do some of this. Yeah, but I wanted to do some bigger cooks for y'all. Maybe hopefully for next year. Certainly would love to do a brisket. I want to do one this year, but none of my sons I could get into town over the summer because I need some big eaters if I'm gonna do a brisket. So if I'm gonna spend that kind of money on that big piece of meat, I gotta have some people to eat it, and those are the guys that they'll do it. But I'll probably definitely include for next summer. And feel free to reach out and talk. Whatever because I've some things that I do, like for example, my spatchcock turkey for Thanksgiving. I'll do smoked prime rib for Christmas. I do a real good ham for Easter. And I'm working on some other things as well for I'm playing around with. So I'm getting ready to do. I'm going to try to do a sauerbraten on the pellet grill. So I'm looking forward to giving that a shot. But that might have to be a couple attempts before I dare video something like that and try to offer it up. So, but I appreciate y'all coming out. Like I said, if you want questions or anything like that, afterwards, feel free to hit me up. And I appreciate y'all coming, and stay safe, and have a great rest of your day and have an even better weekend.
Oh, yeah, we'll go ahead and end it there. Thanks a lot, Aaron. That was really great, and my mouth was watering the whole time. So we'll go ahead and end it here. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank y'all.